You're very welcome.
Being here today. I say that because when I first got into dabbling, I dabbled in real estate for a little bit, but she taught me everything I knew. So I'm excited when I went back to what we call my wheelhouse, that I can work with Cathy, because she's like absolutely brilliant. She's one of the best brokers I know. If you're a realtor watching this and you're looking, I laugh because my husband owns a brokerage, but go to Cathy. She's going to train you. So, and I did say that as I'm recording, so please forgive me. But I wanted to thank everybody. Today's webinar that we are teaching you in is called the First Time Home Buyers Webinar. And I put coaching you through home ownership because the truth is I met Cathy, holy cow, 24 years ago in youth sports. Isn't that crazy? Or 20, yeah, because Trip's 24. The little boy in the poopy diaper, remember? That's how we became friends. Had to throw away those Gap shorts. So we've known each other, and I remember because I was, young mom, and I used to get these really cool brochures, and it was Rick jumping out of the helicopter. The real estate flyers that you guys used to send out. So that was my first introduction to them in real estate, and then as time grew on, and then we became partners. And then we, continue to work together. Cathy is amazing. So we are going to kind of walk you through today. I wanted to give a little bit of who we are so you would know, kind of that we know what we're talking about. Like I said, lending has always been my wheelhouse, and I'm not going to read all that stuff. But the bottom line is, when it comes down to financing and it comes down, real estate is pretty much all I've ever done. But financing, I was an underwriter, then I was an underwriting auditor, right? And decided that it was kind of like, by the time I was finished doing all the foreclosure stuff, it was kind of like working in the morgue. Where now doing purchases, it's exciting because that's an exciting time for people. So I've gone back in. I am a loan originator with a mortgage firm in Tampa. And that's kind of who I am and what I do. And then we have Miss Cathy Schulze, 31 years in the business, like I said. Cathy is graduated from my favorite school. She's a Gator. Rick is also an Army Ranger, like I mentioned years ago when the postcards would have, was that really him jumping out of the helicopter?
Yeah.
Or a plane or something?
Yeah, he's parachuting.
Isn't that cool? That was very cool. Both are real estate brokers, luxury certified, which is an important thing to know and understand, especially in the South Tampa market. And so that is who we have. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned, she's my go-to. I mean, I'm sure she gets tired of me texting her with all kinds of stupid questions all the time.
Never. Never.
But yeah, she's definitely brilliant in this, so I thought that she would be a really good asset to help educate our first-time buyers. Cathy, I'm going to kind of ask you questions and kind of let you help us walk through this.
Okay.
You can see this, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's find, get, look, and choose, right? The first most important thing is to find a realtor. And this is the funniest thing because my brother, Daryl, he's my other mentor, and he cannot stand when people say realtor.
Right.
I mean, to the point that now Kevin, it makes his skin crawl. And I kind of am used to it, but you want a licensed realtor. What is the difference between a real estate agent and a realtor, Cathy?
A real estate agent and a real estate what?
Realtor. They always say get a realtor. You want a realtor.
Everybody that's licensed and participates in their board is deemed a realtor.
Exactly. So if you're not a realtor, that means that you're not part of any kind of board. You're kind of flying on your own. Is that how that works or something?
Yes. But if you're a sales agent, you can't do that. You have to be a broker.
Gotcha. See, I didn't know that. Look at you. Okay, so you want to find a realtor that you work with. You want it to be somebody that, can you give me some ideas? Like if somebody was looking for a realtor, what do they need to look for? I'd imagine years experience would be helpful.
Experience, knowledge, just to see if you connect. Like some people are type A personality. I'm not. I'm more laid back, you know, let's take it slow. And some people want that, like Rick, that A personality that's like, okay, let's jump in the car, let's go, let's do. Da, 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 da. I prefer to, you know, here's what we're going to do for the day, take them through it. Okay, here's what we're going to do tomorrow. And then once you get an offer, I walk them through step by step. A lot of type A people just fly through and don't stop.
Kind of like me.
So,
which is why you and Rick are a good partnership, right? Because you're
right. And you want agents that are active in the community. You want agents that are knowledgeable. Like if you get an agent and you're like, oh, when'd you move to Tampa? Say, oh, I got in from New York last week. You know, how much do they know about Tampa?
Exactly. And I think it's kind of important. I mean, we sell everywhere, but I bet you sell South Tampa well. Like you sell everywhere.
I sell everywhere well.
Everywhere well. This is true. You do.
And I go all the way up to Hernando County.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How far south do you go?
I do St. Pete and I do Bradenton.
Awesome. So what do you recommend people, the next step? So you have a realtor, then the next step is, you know, getting a pre-approval, right? Because you don't want to drive people around or even get people in a search and then find out that what they're looking at is not affordable.
Right. Well, because what happens, that gets their hopes up and then they're like, so I tell people, first thing I tell them is to get with a mortgage broker, see what you can afford, and see if you like the payment. A lot of people, like myself, when I go to buy a car, I don't even care how much it costs. I just want to know what the payment's going to be. And if I like the payment, we're good. So even though you might qualify for a lot more, you might not be comfortable with that payment. Yeah. So then your job, Scarlett, is to give them, okay, we'll look in a range from here to here to be.
Yep.
And then when you give me that range, then I go find them the house.
Exactly. And have you seen that? We have a new little app called Quick Qual, which is kind of cool because I'll send you the link and it'll give you their payment and they can kind of play with their closing costs and stuff like that. But one of the things that's important is, and we're going to go through that in a little bit, but the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qual. As a listing agent, how do you look at the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qual?
There's a difference, but in all honesty, they're kind of the same.
Yeah.
I mean, a pre-approval, you do a couple more steps, but a pre-qual is just a quick look.
Exactly.
And, you know, I can work with either.
As now in my seat, and I think it's from coming back out of the underwriting, I used to hate when loan officers would say, I kind of didn't like it when they try to gather everybody's information. But when I realized how many times we get someone under contract and then they can't do it because what they thought they made, they didn't. Oops. You know, so it is definitely makes the process go a lot smoother than to get somebody in based off what they tell you, and then you look at their documentation. But, you know, it's interesting is 9 times out of 10, they actually can get approved for more. Do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because people, when they ask how much you make, they give you their net. So, right. So then the next step is we do the pre-qual or pre-approval, and then we start looking for homes. So, how do you usually do that? I say, okay, Cathy, this is what they're pre-qual for. Then what is your next step with them?
I find out what they're looking for, what range they want to stay in, what area of town they want to be in, what county they want to be in. I find properties for us to go look at, which is my favorite part. Then we get to go find the home. And then when we come back and start to write an offer, that's when the other side asks for the pre-approval. The pre-qual is just a quick jump to get us started in kind of a neighborhood or a small price range. But then when we find one we really, really like, we go back to you to get, okay, can we get the pre-approval because we want to submit an offer.
Exactly. So we're right, look at that. You got us right to the make the offer part. So you get ready. So how does it work when a realtor, because I mean, people know that, I remember being at Stars and having to take people their documents and they'd have to sign all these papers for a loan. You know, now it's kind of cool. You use systems now that you can email offers and stuff. Is that right?
Yes, we do everything electronically. But again, if I'm working with a first-time home buyer and they've never done this before, I'll take a blank one or I'll take the real one and sit down with them and go with it line by line so they understand exactly what happens. And then I give them a timeline of what's going to happen once their offer is accepted. You know, you've got the inspection period, you've got to find your homeowner's insurance. You know, I give them a whole timeline of things that they need to do. So they don't want to get caught behind. And plus the loan processor kind of keeps them on track as well.
Exactly.
But especially with first-time home buyers, you have to take your time and we throw around real estate lingo like it's and they're looking at me like I'm talking Chinese. And I have to remember that if they've never done this before, you slow down and you take them by the hand and you're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. You know, I get them involved and I show them the numbers before we make an offer. I get them involved in the negotiation process. I get them involved in the inspection process because they need to be over there and they need to make sure that this is exactly what they want to be.
So you make an offer, right? And you fill it out and you send it in. How long do they have usually to come back and give you an answer on that offer?
It depends. If you're dealing with a commercial owner, like a bank or an LLC,
or an REO,
it takes them 2 to 3 days. If you're dealing with a normal person and you get them the offer at 5 p.m. on Friday, you know, I try to make them get it back to me on Saturday, but a lot of the agents say, look, I'll get it to you by Monday because they don't like to bother them on the weekends.
Which brings into a term that I think a lot of people, and if just one person on this call hears this and they see that it's not just realtors trying to be like some not that car salesmen are bad, but you know, shady or something. When we say, hey, they're looking for their highest and best, it's not because you're just trying to push someone to make a really great offer and you don't want to negotiate. What is the term when you are going to make an offer and the listing agent says to you, we want the highest and best? What is it that they mean by that?
What I tell people is, how well do you like this house? Some of them are like, we love it. You know, other people not. I said, they're requesting your highest and best instead of, you know, I'll come up 500, you come up 100, I'll come up 300, you come up. That takes a whole process. So they ask you to come back with your highest and best. And a lot of people say, well, I want, you know, the price is 170, but let me go in at 150, but I'll go up to 165. Okay. I can't tell that to the seller. That's a discussion we have. So when they come back after the 150 and say, give us your highest and best, I said, well, now's the time to go. You said you didn't want to pay more than 165 for this house. Is it worth it to you to go in at 165? And, you know, it's always, the buyer's always in control. So my job is just to find them the house, get them the house for the right price, and then get you to get them the financing with all the great first-time homebuyer programs, and on we go.
Exactly. And I think that's really important because from the lender side, I heard it just this week where somebody lost a house because although their realtor said it was highest and best, they still thought that the seller was going to come back and negotiate. How often do you see a seller come back and negotiate a highest and best?
Not
They've got
rarely.
multiple
Usually when
offers.
you get a highest and best, it's either a multiple offer situation, which I tell people, you're bidding against yourself. Whatever, whatever you feel like putting in, but don't keep going up. So make your highest and best is what you're comfortable with. Another people that use highest and best are people that need to just get moved. And they're like, okay, I will leave this house if I get this amount. And they have it in their head. So when single people come back with highest and best, it's usually because there's some kind of issue that needs them to move quickly.
Gotcha. Perfect. Okay, so we've made our offer. They've given their highest and best, or it wasn't that. They got it accepted. What is the next phase that we go into? And I think, one of the biggest things that seems confusing to people is the difference of their escrow and an escrow deposit.
Right. On my contracts, I put it that it's done 3 days after acceptance.
And usually, what is that? What is that escrow deposit? Like, what is that?
It's your good faith money to show that you really want to go through with the deal. And then in that 3 days, while they're getting their escrow deposit together, they also get back with the lender. Hey, here's my contract. What do you think? And then we also send it to the title company so they can check the title to make sure there's no outstanding debts, deeds, liens, anything on the property that would be detrimental to the buyer.
Gotcha.
And then after that, we schedule the inspection.
Now, do you do like as-is contracts, or do you do crisp? Or talking to someone that doesn't really know the difference of them very well, but
I always use as-is.
And what is that? What does as-is mean?
As-is you mean you buying the house as it sits, and then you have the chance to, once you decide on the offer, you have a 10 or 15 day inspection window. You can go through and inspect and inspect and inspect and decide that in that 10 days, you don't like the neighbors. You don't like the neighbors down the street. You don't like this. You don't like that. You can walk away. Or the last one I just did, there was a minor electrical problem in the laundry room. So I called the seller and I said, the buyer will accept the house as is as long as you fix that electrical in the laundry room. And he said, well, it's not worth trying to sell my house again. I'll fix it. And they get a licensed electrician to fix it. So it gives you a little room to renegotiate, but you're not going to go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then sometimes if some big repairs pop up, the only way to get it through is the buyer pays a little, the seller pays a little. Sometimes I have to kick in a little just so everyone, can get it and get it done.
Perfect. Thank you. So then I always like to say the next phase after you do the inspection, you have to cooperate I didn't spell that right, with a lender, which is always important. Review and inspect. So that means like, this is when you get, it's like good cop, bad cop.
Mm-hmm.
I used to love it as a realtor because I got to have all the fun. It was the lender that got all the grief, right? But, because they have to keep asking for documents, and then the underwriter will ask. And to be honest, I think I became a better loan originator after being an underwriter because I understood. And then even after being an auditor, because I sat in the shoes at PennyMac and I audited the files as they came through secondary to be able to buy them, whether or not we were going to buy them or not, knowing if I failed that, if they did not underwrite that according to Fannie Mae guidelines, that we wouldn't buy the loan. And you know what? If we wouldn't buy the loan, that underwriter probably lost their job, right? That underwriter, the company, if Fannie Mae couldn't buy the loan, they'd have to hold the loan themselves long term. So the underwriters aren't these evil witches that sit in this back room just trying to figure out how to ruin your day. They're trying to keep their jobs. They're trying to make sure at the end of the day that this loan can be sold in the secondary market and they don't end up having to eat it. And I think having been in that position, I remember way back, Cathy, when I was a young lender and, going to right the wrongs of the world. I used to hate underwriters, like they're just, now I get it. I think it also, I get it because, I think, and another thing that it's helped with, not that I like gray a lot, but it definitely makes me understand what the guidelines are and exactly how we can, how far we can go within them and what is doable. And, other things, because it may, I'm completely orange is not my favorite color. So I'm never going to do anything that's going to put me in an orange jumpsuit. But, there are different ways you can look at it. And there's different ways that we just don't think about as far as getting things done. But, so when your lender's like, okay, I need this, this, and that, just understand that's part of the process. It may not be a lot of fun at first, but, when you get to that closing day, you're happy, right? So we've done through that whole yucky process. We get the magic words, and the magic words is clear close.
Yep.
Right? That's the day. That's exciting. I think we just had one with you that when the coronavirus hit, like all of a sudden the lenders, and they start talking about, I don't know, did you start having PTSD back to 2008?
Yeah.
Oh, it was horrible. I was like freaking out. Well, the bad news is when they started saying that they were going to allow for forbearances, a lot of these lenders started throwing overlays. And in one day, I had 4 people that were approved. We had to go back and rework them. And the cool news is we closed every single one of them. We took them all from FHA, cleaned up the credit, got them where they needed to be, and threw them and closed them as conventional, which was pretty good. But it definitely took a toll on our relationship. And, it was not fun. But you know what? Right now, they're happy homeowners, right? So we get the clear to close. Then the day of closing, I think that's another misconception because we do a final walkthrough. But what are you looking at when you're doing that final walkthrough, Cathy?
You are looking for damage that wasn't there when you initially saw the house. So if they're moving out and their couch causes a huge hole in the wall, we got to get them to pay for it. But if it looks in the same condition that it did when you showed it and walked around and were there for the inspection, and the seller has to maintain it until closing. So for some reason, if the house starts leaking like a sieve before closing, he's got to put a roof on it. But yeah, we just go look at, everything. Sometimes they ask for extra appliances or the washer dryer, so you do the walkthrough to make sure everything you've asked for, the pool equipment, anything you've asked for is there. Because once you sign on those closing docs, it's hard to get people to cooperate after that.
Yeah.
So, but
so when
back
do you
to what
do
you
it?
were saying, the paperwork, when I start showing a first-time home buyer, I'm like, look, you need to find your tax returns, your bank statements. I try to give them everything that you guys need to start. And sometimes you need some other weird stuff, like pay stubs. I try to tell them this while we start gathering those, because when we find one, you're going to need all those papers.
Yeah.
And when you give somebody the heads up that this is coming, it works really well.
Yeah. Proper, when they've been properly, which is why we're having this today, when they've been properly educated and prepared. So you do the walkthrough before closing, and then what can they expect to happen at closing?
At closing, you would have already wired your money to the title company, because they only take wires.
Yep.
You will sign a bunch of documents. The first would be your closing statement, showing you exactly where all the money went to and how it's figured. And then you sign the mortgage, and you sign the note, and you sign compliance paperwork, and a bunch of other. It's probably about 50 pages if you're a buyer. Seller has to sign like 4.
Yeah.
Which is great to be the seller.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of people want to sit there and it's all on the person. I will help anybody. They want to sit there and they want to read every paper. Fine by me. I want to make sure you understand it. Other people are like, I don't care what it says. They just sign. But I always make sure I look to see the interest rate is right. The payment is right. There's no payoff penalty. You know, certain things that could come back and bite you are the things that I try to avoid you getting into.
Well,
And there's been times we've had to call the mortgage broker from the closing table.
Well, hopefully your mortgage broker try to be at the closing table unless it's COVID's hit. But yes,
Mm-hmm.
I love going to the closings. One of the things I've noticed that seems to be missing sometimes is the seller concessions might not be right.
Correct.
You know, or a warranty that they were supposed to buy may not be on the, on the Alta. I still want to call it a HUD. Can't help myself.
Yeah, it's a HUD.
Yeah, thank you.
It's just a closing statement now. That's what we call it.
Still a HUD, but yes, it's a closing statement. That's the new term, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have gotten to closing. Woohoo! I wanted to see, this is kind of like a breaking point. We're going to dig just a little bit deeper. There's a chat box. Does anybody have any questions so far? So there's a chat. So if you see the chat, I'm going to write something in it. Oops, see what happens when I do that. Okay, so if not, then we're just going to dig just a little bit deeper. And then we're going to go to just a little bit deeper about like pre-qual. You know, with some of this, I'm just going to breeze right over because we kind of dug deep just in it. But, oh, we have a question. Yes. Oh, nope. Okay, good. We're good. Okay. So a pre-qual, you know, we were talking about that. What is a basic pre-qual? A pre-qual is just pulling the credit, going over good just to get started with a cost sheet. Not approval, but a basic just getting started. I had 2 or 3 last night that that wanted to go look this weekend, right? So I pulled their credit. I looked at what they said they made. I kind of did like a peripheral, if I think that they're going to work. And then I send a needs list, right? And hopefully they'll start uploading into the portal their pay stubs and their bank statements so that I know, because I know that it's not a lot of fun for the realtors or the buyers to be out looking at something and then find out that there's a problem. And that's just a heartbreak and a problem waiting to happen. So that's why the pre-approval in my world is a little bit better, because when you make that offer, you know that you know that you know. So, I mean, we just, just all kinds of different things that could pop up. So that's, kind of why they may ask you for these documentations. Okay, this is going to be really crazy that I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it. And Cathy always refers to people. You got to keep us honest, right? Realtors, it's you don't pay them, the seller pays them. Lenders is where it could cost you some money. So it's always a good idea to get 2 on the exact same days. You can't compare apples and oranges. If you got a pre-qual on Monday when interest rates were 2.75, and then I do a pre-qual for you today when they're 3.25, because the truth is when you find that house and it's time to lock, my rates could have been lower. So if you ask for a loan estimate same day, same house, it's apples and apples. Does that make sense, Cathy? Mm-hmm. Because even different houses, I mean, I'm going to tell you something. When I was an auditor and just the things that I would see, even just when I'm comparing these and I'm training realtors, it is crazy the way some lenders may make the homeowners $15 a month so the payment looks so much less. But then when you get under contract and you actually go get the insurance, the truth is, the interest rate was much higher, or they just moved numbers around. So it's just a really good idea to get 2 loan estimates. And again, that's where if you're working with an expert like Cathy, Cathy could probably sit down with you and look at that loan estimate and kind of, she's been in business long enough to be able to see through the smoke and mirrors and be able to say, okay, you know what? She can't really go over numbers, but it's right there. Look, this is the insurance, so you got to ignore this. This is the title, you got to ignore this. It's good to have a realtor that can help you walk through your loan estimates. Does that make sense, Cathy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you've got a realtor that has not a clue what's going on with that, then you're going to have to think, what else don't they have a clue what's going on?
Right, and an important part to make right now is when buyers send their information to you and you pre-qualify or pre-approve them, I don't know anything about their finances.
Exactly.
All I know is what you say, here, they can qualify for this. That's where I start.
Exactly.
So for everybody on this call, just know that you send their information to her. I don't want to know your financial information. Nope. I just want to find your dream home.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
That's her job, is to work out the financial end, but we don't share that information because it's personal. It has nothing to do with me.
It's like attorney-client privilege information,
basically,
right?
is what it is. And so it's not like we go, oh yeah, they think that. No, we don't, because I just give me a number to work with and let me go find you your dream house, because that's the fun for me.
Exactly.
Finding the right house.
But you're pretty good about saying, here, I recommend these two. Go talk to them and get back with me. And if they end up with 2 loan estimates, you don't have a problem, because you're not looking at their financials. You're just looking at their blank. Hey, you know, this one, the rate's a little bit higher. If they need somebody to navigate, sometimes you might want to go back to your realtor and just look at the loan estimate with them. But I think it's a good idea, especially if you're not using me, it's a good idea to go get 2 and compare them, because you just never know, right? And you just got to compare apples to apples. And you also want to compare the same loan product when you're doing that. Can't really, and that's kind of where, this might get a little boring, but this is where we talk about the different loan products. But it's important for first-time buyers to understand the difference. I think a lot of people's go-to is FHA, right? Mm-hmm. I always like to say, when I'm talking to people, what is your end game? If they could go with a 3% conventional, 3% down, conventional, like home ready product, that's a first-time buyer product, which means their mortgage insurance is really, really low and they only have to put 3% down. If their scores are, high enough, it's better than FHA. And conventional, the PMI goes away when it hits 79. What is PMI? I don't want to over talk people. If you think of PMI is what the difference between 80% and 100%, there's a risk for that, right? It's a risk to the lender. So they give PMI insurance on that. Sorry about that. And with FHA, it never goes away. With conventional, it naturally goes away. I'm seeing a lot of refis right now with the rates being really low. A lot of people are refining out of FHA into conventional to not have that PMI, and because the rates are so low. Now FHA, don't get me wrong, can be a great product. FHA, I used to, when I first started, was just thinking it was for the lower income, or was it for lower credit? That's not true either. There's a different reason and rhyme for everything. Sometimes it's the weirdest thing. On any given day, rates are different. And especially now, I've never seen it before as much as now, that conventional and FHA can toggle back and forth who's lower. So FHA is a good product because FHA is backed by the government. It's 3.5% down. But the PMI does stay with it. Another one is VA. VA is for all active duty or retired. You have to have been in the military. I think it's 2 years, right? If you're active, I believe it's 4 years. If you're, oh my gosh, I forget what it's called. Cathy, when people aren't in the military, they go for the weekends, part-time.
Oh, National Guard.
So that you have to be in there for 4 years. So you get your VA entitlement, and with that, you pay a small, hold on one second. It's our hero, our wonder dog is acting up. You pay a small upfront payment, but you have no PMI, and it's 100% financing. And then you have USDA, which I haven't really done a lot of USDA. It is 100% financing. It's more of the rural financing. Farm loans is what they used to call it. But, you know, those, it's hard. You have to do it in certain areas. You have to look up and make sure it's in a certain area. That is 100% financing. They're kind of similar, but they're not, I think, with VA. I'm doing one right now. But again, it's another way to be able to get the 100% financing. So that's the difference when people talk about loan. Like if you've never been in the military, you're never going to get a VA loan. Do they have 100% financing? Absolutely. Is there first time buyer programs? Absolutely. And we will send you the link the next time we do. I think it's about time we should do a new class. We did one. Remember I did one like in January? I think when we do the Ask the Experts, Kathy, I'm going to do it because a lot of that has changed now. But there's bonds, there's down payment assistance, there's grants, there's all kinds of stuff like that with conventional and FHA. And we'll do a class on that to kind of dig a little deeper later. But as I said, you know, I kind of walked through this. The biggest thing is, you know, just to educate yourself. This is one of the things that I put, and this is just me, you know, when you're out searching for your house, I feel like, and I could be wrong, Kathy, what do you think is the maximum houses you want to go look at in one day for somebody?
Probably 6 to 7 to 8, somewhere in there. Because after the first 2, you go, well, where was this in and what was? So what I do is I give everybody the MLS sheet and a pretty pink pen and tell them to write all over that sheet what they like about the house, what they don't like about the house. So later when they go sit down and go, oh, what house was that pretty kitchen in? They go back to their notes and they can find it. So I have them take notes, and if they just don't like it at all, they ball it up and throw it into my back seat. We're good. They only keep the ones they like. But you're right. You can't see too many in a day.
Yeah, I had somebody want to see 12 one day, and I'm like, that was a mistake. And I think you're right. I think actually 6 is a better number.
6 to 8, you know, depending on, like if 3 of them are on the same street, not a problem. But again, what happens is your mind after the second house, you're like, whoa, what am I doing? And you just get so overwhelmed. If you're not taking good notes, then you're like, Kathy, what was that house with the, and then I have to go research it because I'm like you, I'm looking at the same 8 houses.
Yep.
I don't remember. I have to go figure it out. And then what I tell people is, you know, if you think you found the house you like, talking, you know, go to lunch, talking about yourself. If you want, go home, pray about it that night. Let me know. I'm not here to force you to buy it. But I always tell people when they walk in the house, if it's the one for them, they know it right away.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yep.
So, but yeah, no, there's certain ways to guide and educate people as you go. And like I said, I try to hold them by the hand and say, okay, I know this is your first time. The next time we buy a house, you're going to be a pro.
So the important elements of a contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you see this? We talk about the price, the loan type, escrow deposit, closing date, inspection date, financing date, addendums, and concessions. So we talked about everything pretty much. Do you want to explain to them what seller concessions means?
A seller concession is like you offer them, say, $250,000, but you need them to help you with $5,000 of your closing costs. That's a concession.
Yep.
And so now really the net to the seller is $245, but you're getting $5,000 of your out-of-pocket money paid for.
It's something that people should really understand when they're negotiating, that if they're getting seller concessions, that seller is really getting less for that house.
Mm-hmm.
So they shouldn't try to come in and lowball and get concessions. They're, you know, they need to understand that if they're getting $5,000 in seller concession, that seller is selling that house for $5,000 less.
And and usually if you lowball them and ask for concessions, you don't get either.
No, you really make them mad, right?
Yeah. So you just, what I advise them is to go in, you know, we run the numbers for you to make sure it's in line, because appraisal is a big issue. I don't want to sell you something, you get your heart set on it, it appraises low, and the seller won't come down, now you don't get the house.
Yep.
So, you know, we run the numbers, we get it right, and, you know, it's just, I tell them to go in what it's worth and, you know, ask for concessions, and then, you know, see what the seller, all the seller can say is no, but I'm the one doing the negotiating. So I'm, you know, they're not going to be yelling at you. You know, they yell at me, but I explain to them the way of the world. So it all works out. But some people are like, oh my God, I don't want to offend them. I think I have to go in full price. Well, wait a minute. Let me do the numbers first, and then we'll see if you need to go in at full price.
And I think it's important. It's another reason that it's important to have somebody who is an expert in the business, who knows what they're doing, has the experience, because just like what you're saying about buyers and personalities, when we're negotiating with other realtors and sellers, it's important to have somebody that can understand those personalities which you're dealing with in negotiating, right? Would you not agree?
Well, oh yeah. I had one not too long ago. The seller refused to leave the refrigerator. It was a nice refrigerator. It wasn't top of the line, but he didn't want to do it. So his agent came back and said, nope, he's not going to leave the refrigerator. So I asked the agent, can I call your seller? And he's like, well, if I'm on the phone call with you. I said, that's fine. So I told the seller, I said, you realize you're buying your $285,000 house back for $1,000, because you're not seeing the big picture. So if you want to buy your house back for $1,000, you know, if you carried another month, you could have bought the refrigerator. I mean, I can see if it's something personal, like a Tiffany chandelier lamp or something that's been in the family, but really a refrigerator. People are weird over the strangest things.
Yes, I've seen people fight and lose great deals over water softeners with $1,000 balance.
Yeah, and basically what it comes down, it doesn't come down to the buyer, it comes down to the seller buying his house back for that $1,000.
Exactly. That's an interesting way to put it. See?
Well, and when you explain it to them, they're like, oh, okay. You know, put on another 2 months. You might not get off for another 2 months. Put 2 months more of carrying charges, making a mortgage, paying the insurance, taxes, water, utilities. And you could have had it sold 2 months ago, but you had to keep that refrigerator. At this point, they're like, I'll give it to anybody that wants it. You know? So
just take the refrigerator, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You know, so that's basically what we do.
So here we go. We've got insurance, appraisal, make your inspection. Ensure your inspection's done as soon as possible. That's a tip. Contact the title company as soon as possible to make your deposit. And one thing I always like to say when people want to go to the inspection, try to go at the end. Don't go to that inspection and follow the inspector around during the entire time, because by you talking to the inspector, and I was married once a lifetime ago to a home inspector, and I would hear it all the time is, you know, if you're talking to them and distracting them, don't be mad if they miss something, right? It's usually good to let them go, do their job, and then talk with you after. Would you not agree with that, Cathy?
Well, I use the home team where they send 4.
Oh.
But lately, the inspectors, because of COVID-19, won't let anybody in the house with them.
Oh, that's true. That's
They will
true.
meet you in the driveway afterwards, or you can wait to get the report the next day and call them and they will go over it line for line. But they don't want 3 or 4 family members in there while they're inspecting, all because of this COVID-19.
Yep. Well, this is my 2 cents as the lender. Kind of like you don't want to see people's finances. I don't want to see people's home inspectors. Do
Right.
not send your lender your home inspection. Your lender may want a 4-point for your insurance, but don't send because if don't send the lender it's a list that the inspector's job is to find everything wrong with the house and to help use it right for you as a realtor as a tool to negotiate things to get fixed.
Correct.
So why we would not want to send to your lender, and it's crazy because I've heard of lenders asking for home inspections. It is none of my business. That is, I know that is a tool being used between the buyer and the realtor to be able to negotiate the repairs that they need to get done in their home. It is not the lender's business, responsibility, or anything, just like same as it goes. Then you have the appraisal. So that's another person. So I always, see people do their appraisal after the inspection because you don't want to pay for an appraisal and have walked because of the inspection. Do you agree with that, Kathy?
Right.
So the lender usually chooses the appraisal. The buyer's realtor typically isn't allowed to have contact. And what happens if it comes in short? Those are 3 quick little things. Our company is kind of cool in the fact that we have 5 appraisers that we always usually work with. So we don't have as many as appraisal issues because our appraisers work in that area. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
They live and work and know, right? But what happens what have you seen a lot of times if somebody's buying a house and it's, they're buying at $250 and it comes in at $245? What happens then?
I just had one come in last week. It was $275. No, it was $278 and it came in at $275. And it just so happened the seller was giving the buyer a $4,000 concession. They came down to $3,000, so now the seller's giving him a $1,000 concession.
Okay.
So there's always, when the appraisal comes in short, there's always a way to work it out. And it just depends on the seller. It depends on the lender. It depends on the buyers. Because if their heart is absolutely set on this house, we're going to find a way to get it for them.
Yep, exactly. That's kind of like what you said with the inspection. Sometimes they give, sometimes the other gives, and sometimes we give.
Yep.
Whatever it takes to kind of make it happen.
Correct.
So we talked about this also. We talked about the walkthrough, go to the walkthrough, do the closing, go over it. And then finally, woohoo, we have homeowners.
Happy Homeowner Day.
Happy Homeowner Day. So that's like the best part. We get through that. So I think we pretty much covered all the questions. I wanted to see if anybody had any additional questions. I'm going to also send you Cathy's contact information. Bob Hatton Realty is on West Shore. Her phone number is 813-299. That's what I needed to put here, Cathy. I'm sorry. I'm going to add that on here. 299-9800. And her partner is Rick Schulz, 299-9803. That's good for memory.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to send a follow-up email today with everybody that had registered with our contact information and a replay of this webinar. But do you guys have any questions for us? There's the chat box. We're going to give a couple of minutes. Anyone? We also need your information because the people that were on here are going to get a $500 credit from me for attending this webinar, which is pretty cool. And we have some giveaways that we're going to be sending out. So I'm going to send an email to get your address and that information so that we can send our gift cards. So that's pretty exciting. Any questions? I don't see any. Cathy, I appreciate your time. We actually did it in just shy of 1 hour.
Good.
That's not so bad. I will see you on Monday or Tuesday, did we say? You tell me.
Mhm.
And if anybody has any questions, I'm going to send an email. You can reply to that email. And I'm going to connect you with Cathy as well. I believe some of you might be in our system. I'm going to connect you with Cathy so that she can reach out to you as well. And I hope you have a great day. And thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.